Welcome. Hope you guys are coming. Some people, I'm a little early, so I'm just kind of signing on, checking in what's happening with everybody, seeing people. Hi, Natalie. Oh, my goodness. Hello, Sophia. It's so funny. I can't get over it. Like, no matter how many times I've done this, like how close I am. I'm like, just staring at the videos. Hi, Sarah. Sarah, I've been jamming out. Guitar is like big time happening. I'm just going to say it. I'm sure it is for you too. And your beautiful voice and all your stuff. Just keep going. And I love that you always aspire to do everything. When I asked you once, what do you want to do when you're older? And you're like, everything. I'm like, oh my goodness. I am older and I still want to do everything too. I totally get it. Love it. Hi, Sienna. Oh my goodness, some of these names I don't know. Sometimes I can't say hi to the first name because the handle is not something I necessarily know. Sometimes it's the last name and then I know it. I'm like, hey so-and-so. Unless you have a common last name, then I have to say hi to everybody, which is totally cool. I don't mind. So we're just kind of welcoming everybody. Today what we're going to do is first we're going to review on what we did last week. So we made the clay, and this is another one that I made because I painted some of the ones. Here, I'm going to do that so you can see. Okay, so this is one of the ones that I did. I actually made this yesterday. Most of it is glued. Some isn't even glued. Shh. Only because it wasn't totally dry yet and it's sticking still, so I don't want to crack the clay or break anything. I had a super cool moment yesterday when I joined Ms.A.'s preschool class. Some of you are here, welcome. And it was super fun because not only did Miss Gorski join, Ms.A. is rocking on her guitar, of course, so cool. And then I got to do an art lesson, but also the bonus of this all is that there are some people who joined us from Friday and made clay projects, and they were able to show me on Zoom like what they made. Like they also they had one project and had a second project. I'm loving that, people. Thank you. Love that kind of stuff. I'm just watching clay dried. I am doing a puzzle. We completed a puzzle, and guess what I'm doing now? A paint by number. I should show you guys this. Hold on. Since we're early, I can do it. These are so fun. Look at it. So, this is the paint by number, and I actually got this months ago. I'm just saying. This wasn't even like being at home kind of type thing. This I had just because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. And then it sends you all the paints that you can do. And after we finish the puzzle, this is what you can, I haven't done very much yet, but you can kind of see close up. See all those little tiny numbers? So you match the paint number. See how the little paint containers, can you see that? Have numbers. And then you paint it. And here's the coolest thing, now that I've looked it up. They actually have ones you can send a photograph. So you can do your dog, your family, whatever. And they will custom print a paint by number for you. Mind-blowing. Love that. I love that so much. So fun. But anyway, so that's my new puzzle is paint by number. And I will tell you, I obviously have painted, created, done things for years and years and years. The paintbrushes that they send with, I'm like, I'm not using those. I grab my own brushes. I had to use those. They're tiny, the tiniest little spaces. It's actually so fun, but it's very like, I'm like always constantly moving the canvas, but super fun, but way more difficult than I thought paint by numbers were. Who knew? Anyway, okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to first start out by what we did on Friday, making the clay. And that reason we're going to do that is the only time I have done let me grab my example, a continued lesson was the very first week that we were home. And it was great, but I got a lot of emails and kind of questions about if I wasn't there, what if I didn't have it? And especially with making your own clay, of course I would have that. So I'm a little nervous of that. So what I did, same as I did on the first week, is I recreated a calligraph so that they could print if they weren't with us, if they didn't join us that first time. So I'm also going to recreate clay first, and then I'm going to kind of quickly, in a live version time lapse, I'm going to show you all the different ways, and then we're going to add color in a whole bunch of different fun techniques today that depending on what you have. Some of you have oil pastel, some of you have paint, some of you have everything, so possibilities are endless. But some of you only have maybe the liquid watercolor that we created ourselves, that we DIY'd. Some of you maybe only have markers, and that's okay. All of those things are going to work in coloring our projects today, our masterpieces. But I'm going to show you a bunch of different ideas so that when you're sitting at home and you're like, I have this, I have that, or maybe you ordered something and it's on its way. Either way, you're going to be able to add beautiful colors and create a finished, beautiful masterpiece. All right, so this is what we created last time, basically. We made clay, and then we took some type of, these are actually, which is ironically or not ironically, from sterile medical gloves, which I also ironically had already because I do a lot of painting. Anyway, and so that's just like some kind of packaging. It can be a cereal box. It can be anything. And what we're going to do is I'm going to first show you how to make the clay with 3 materials, just salt, flour, and water. It will self-harden. It will dry. And then I'm going to show you how to add texture, weight, and we're going to make some type of tessera, type of mosaic clay piece today first. And then if you already have your one from last week that's dried, we're going to add color. So if you have one already, this is one that I just did kind of like with a watercolor and marker and a paintbrush and water. Sometimes even if you don't have watercolor, you can use a water-based marker, and we can add a paintbrush and water, or even a paper towel and water, your fingertip in water, and you can blend it to make something like this. I'm going to also show you this one that I'm about to show you is actually only half completed. I'm going to show you the first half first. So I did this with oil pastel, paint, marker. I did a bunch of different things, even chalk. The other side I have not completed yet, just so that I can demonstrate later if we do a black background and then add color on top, what type of effect that you can receive. Look at me peeking behind. Hey guys. Hi guys. So fun. Anyway, so I'm glad you're here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make the clay. Make sure that you have a half cup of flour, a quarter cup of salt, and a quarter cup of a quarter cup of salt, a quarter cup of water. Oh, I'm sorry, and a cup of flour. Now, we're going to make something like this today right now. And a lot of you already have this. Some of you I know, I've seen some of the artwork you've made already, which is outstanding. I love this. People have actually been sending me these. Some of them let them dry. Some people saved them in Ziplocs to keep it for later. Some people let it dry into different sculptures or pieces of artwork. And some people have already even like painted them. Outstanding. Obsessed. Love this. Love this. So we're going to make something like this today. And some of you might have one that we added color to or made more of a Play-Doh modeling clay that we were able to keep for a longer period of time. If you have something like this still, you can use this today. If you don't have, hold on, let me show you. If you don't have something like this from last time that you completed, or if you already painted yours and you're like me who can't wait and just did something already and have nothing left, we'll make clay first and really quickly. And if you missed it from before, you can find it on YouTube. But we're going to do it again right now. So I'm going to turn the camera and we're going to get started. I'm glad you're all here to create with me. How many of you did the, while I'm moving stuff out of my way before I move the camera, how many of you did the challenge, where the laundry challenge? Did anybody do that? I'm glad also my comments are scrolling today. The past couple, here's another laundry challenge. The past couple lessons or weeks almost, my comments on my end are kind of stopped until I rewatch it or I archive it and save it. But I can see they're scrolling, but they're kind of stuck when I look. So I feel like people aren't writing me back. And when I rewatch it, there's tons of people telling me what they did, answering my questions, all these things. So I apologize if I didn't answer your question or I didn't see it. Sometimes I'm not looking, but a lot of times now I realize it's actually got stuck. It's like kind of like, just like, and then when I rewatch it, I'm like, holy cow, they were contacting me from another planet. No, not contacting, but you were like, they were talking to me. You were asking me questions, and for some reason, my stuff was all stuck up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch the camera right now. You guys all know the routine. I'm going to do it really carefully. I'm going to try not to make anybody dizzy or drop any phones. I'm going to read a couple more comments. Hi, Anna. Something just went on my screen weird. I'm going to turn it again without anything bad happening, like dropping it. And I can tell that I needed to turn right there. Perfect. Okay. Moving my stool up. All right, guys. So if you have no clay at all, or if you do and you want to make more, we're going to start with that first. So what I have is some flour. Everything is right on the container. Some salt. And a big old bowl. So I'm going to take my measuring cups. And remember, the first thing we need is a half cup. Make sure I do it the right way. Oops, why is it so blurry? Half cup of flour. I think I may have turned to the age where once they get those glasses, all of a sudden I can't see anymore, people. All right, so half a cup of flour. And then we're going to need a quarter cup of salt. If you have this already, just like I said, remember, just be patient with us while we allow some people to either recreate some more clay. This needs a little bit more. Or for those newbies who are with us today who don't even have any clay. They were slacking on Friday. They didn't want to join us. I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. I know you did. And then I also need a quarter cup again. Let me do a quarter cup even though it's, there you go. That's not blurry. Oh, it's upside down though. It's not blurry, but it's upside down, people. All right, and then I'm going to do a quarter cup of water. Okay? And you know what's funny is I did not remember to bring my mixing tool. So I am going to use a pottery tool rather than my hand at first. Because what I want to do is I'm just kind of mixing the flour, water, and salt right now. And we learned last week that if it's a little too much moisture or too wet, you want to add a little more salt. If it's a little too sticky, you might want to add a little flour. If it's too wet and really just not even a texture, you have to work with the consistency. You might add a little flour and salt. And if, of course, if it's too flour-like, you need to add a little water. It's very high-tech, people, science, people. So we're going to work with the consistency. So right now, I kind of just mixed it a little. Can you all see, guys? Let me almost feel like I need to move my camera a little more. I feel like you can. I don't even want to do it with dirty hands. I feel like it's a bad idea, people. I'm not even doing it. I feel like you can see. I'm going to scooch my tray over. How about that? Yes. Sounds better than moving my tripod. Also, I've been seeing so many, emails and texts and posts with so many positive things and so much beautiful artwork. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for doing art with me. Thank you for being who you are and creating. I love it all. And you're doing a great job. Okay, so I'm going to keep going, and I'm just kind of now making my clay more malleable. Let me get a little closer so you can see what's happening right now. It still needs to be smushed and mushed and kneaded a little, but I'm going to go back in. Now, here's where if you were just making clay for the first time or the 5th time, whatever it may be, if you have it too wet or too sticky or too dry, make sure that you are taking all of the things into consideration. Don't just keep pouring salt and flour because you'll never get the right consistency. So you want to really slowly put a little more salt if it's too wet. If it's too sticky, you might even roll it in a little flour on the side on a little butcher block type kind of cutting board or on a plate or something like that, or even on a piece of paper. It doesn't matter. And, of course, you can always add salt, too. So salt, flour, or water, depending on the consistency. Once you get something that's not leaving clay and stickiness all over your fingers, although there is a little, of course. Look at that. There actually is a lot. But it's not that much. But anyway, if you can kind of do this and you can work with it, then you have the right consistency. Okay, I'm going to put that to the side. And then we want to take something like any kind of packaging. Once again, I'm going to barely show it because they owe me tons of money at this point. Some kind of packaging cardboard from a cereal box, from granola bars, whatever it might be. And hello to everyone. It's so great. Right now that I'm looking at my post, it's actually scrolling, and I can actually see live time what people are saying to me. So hello. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Someone made laughs. Hi, Roman. Is that your birthday? Roman. Your birthday. Or no, the Roman family would be Emily and Sean. Emily and Sean. Hello, friends. Hope you're creating with us. Anyway, so you're going to take your clay, take your cardboard, and this is where you're going to start creating your mosaic kind of feeling. Now, this one that I have right here, I started last week on Friday, and I'm going to add a little more just for the people who are joining us new today. Most of you already have something glued to a thin cardboard made of clay in a mosaic style. Okay, so what you're going to do, last week, of course, we learned coil. For those of you who weren't here, if you need a review, you kind of roll your clay into a ball. You can do it right on your table surface as well. Make sure that you have either a piece of paper down or a tablecloth or something. Don't be ruining everybody's kitchen or their dining room table. And once you have the clay, you can roll this into almost, first we said like a sausage link or something like this. Or mozzarella stick. Looks like I actually like mozzarella sticks better. And they're probably more fattening too. That's probably why. And then I'm going to roll that out with my hands. Slowly use both of my hands and start to spread it. And at this point, you can work with the thickness of your coil. It's just a rolled piece of clay, like a worm or a snake or something that you can kind of form. And that is how we made last time, like this heart. And then, let me put this in the middle so you can see. We take small pieces of clay, and we're going to roll them into tiny little balls in our fingers like this. And you can make them into cute little shapes. You can make them into flat little circles, almost like a coin. And you're going to take these little pieces, leaving small amounts of space between them, and pressing them down. So you can do any kind of shape. We talked about last week repetitive shapes like I did here. I also added a lot of texture, which I'll show you quickly in a second. Here's another one where we use the shape of a heart. Okay. Anything that you want to do, basically. It could be, I talked about a dolphin with waves. It could be a flower. It can be words. whatever you like it to be. So what I'm doing slowly is adding these little pieces. Now, if this was ceramic tile or glass, if this was an actual, by definition, mosaic, you would technically take these little pieces of glass or clay tiles. There's special cutters for them. That's what this means, special cutters. And what you do is you actually take these small pieces. They're called tessera. Everyone say tessera. Tessera are small pieces of glass or ceramic tile, and those are the pieces that collectively and mindfully placed would be called a mosaic. They would be glued and grouted too. Now, I'm not going to continue on this because I want to have enough time to show you how we're going to add color today, especially for those of you who are with me on Friday. And someone's asking how to spell tessera. It's Tessera. Tessera. Sienna's asking that. Tessera. And a lot of you probably made, a cute little walking garden stone or something. All those little pieces in some, and then you pour either plaster or concrete. That's all tessera. You just probably didn't know what it was called. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to take this one and I'm going to time lapse, fast forward. But it's not a true time lapse because it's not the exact thing. And I'm going to show you again some examples of how we added color. So this one, actually I'm going to put paper just so I can lift it easier. This one, let me go close up, is not completely done. You can see this side I added all the color. This side I did not, so I can share some fun techniques with you. And then this one I did marker and watercolor, so I'm going to show you how to do that too. So all different fun ways just in case. It is a time check. What's our time check? 12. I can't read it, ma'am. It's inside of her, off her iPad. She's trying to show me off her iPad. She's really working hard. Double time over here, not to get fired from the original week. So this is what we're starting with right now, and here we go. We're going to take one that I have the clay. Now, one thing is, if you did not glue anything, what you want to do is take some, you just stuck it down, just like I was doing right here, where I was just taking a piece of clay and forming it into a fun part of my design or my composition, and it is not glued yet. So actually, let me slide this for a second too. I'll show both. Once it dries, or if you want to do it right away, it's easier once it dries, only because the clay is a little tacky still, and the moisture will actually tack it or hold it in place for a while. So you can kind of work with your composition or create your design before that clay actually dries. But once it does dry, you want to take, I'm going to have both of them in here so I can show you. This is one that was dried from my last night composition. And I'm just going to take a little liquid glue, just a little dot, it's so blurry, just a dot, not a lot, just a dot, not a lot. And I'm going to tack it into place. I'll do each one of those pieces individually so that I do not compromise my composition. I don't want to mess with my design and where I placed everything originally, okay? Now, this one is the one we were just working on. Same thing. These ones are wet clay right now. Can I put glue on that right now? Of course I can. Can you use a glue gun? Yes, you can. You can use any, well, glue stick probably wouldn't work as well, but any kind of glue that has a hold time will work. You can use a glue gun, any kind of liquid glue, something like that, that needs, 20, well, glue gun, of course, is quick. It's so fast. You could do that, but it doesn't tack as well. So if you have the time before you paint it and you're not in a rush, liquid glue is actually better. Just saying for that reason. Because I've actually tacked some on Friday, some of you saw, I tacked some of mine in place with a glue gun and broke before my demonstration. That was not cool. Not cool, people. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and look at my one that I did yesterday. And I added some texture. So this is how I added texture. Let me show you close up again texture. So you might see some of the dimples in this nice circle right here, some of these cool lines, and even some of my smaller ones do have either little indents, dimples, marks that I created to create textures. The center one you can see. So what I did is I used anything that might make a mark. I have like a wooden stick. I kind of just dimpled into it. I took the end of a paintbrush and I definitely created texture on this center one simply with the opposite end, not the end I paint with, but the other end, okay? And I took a butter knife or any kind of clay tool. You can just use a regular butter knife and carefully indented texture all the way around my circles too. So you can add texture, how something feels. Texture. Texture is how something feels, okay? So if it's soft, smooth, bumpy, slimy, that's your texture. And you can create that appearance on your clay as well. Okay, so now all the people who already had something glued and dried, it's happening, people. Thank you for being so patient. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some color. Now, the first thing I want to do is show you that you can simply color with marker. And if you're just to simply color with marker, you literally are just going to color with your marker. Now, the fun thing with this is, as you know, a water-based marker. Can you guys see this? I feel like you can, but I'm going to turn my camera a little. I'm a little nervous to do this, but oh yeah, there we go. And I'm going to even bring you in closer. Hold on. Whoa. It's happening. Okay, that's great. And you can take a paintbrush. I'm going to, whoa. I'm going to actually take a smaller brush. And I'm going to add a little water. And because it's a water-based marker, you can spread the pigment or the color. And you can actually paint simply just with the marker and a paintbrush or water. Now, granted, you could take your pinky, dip it in water, and I can do the same thing. Look right here. I can actually spread that too. You can use a paper towel. If you have a paintbrush, of course, it works better. Okay, so that's it. Let me go close so you can see this again. That's the first thing to show you. So I've added color simply just with a marker. You can just color right on the clay, or you can use what we made in the past few times. We made liquid watercolor, DIY, with food coloring and some water in a little cup or jar. We also have put a marker. And I'm telling you, people, we did this almost 3 weeks ago. And even though my water dried out, I added a little more water into my little jar with my marker. And it works perfectly. Just the same. So you can create it with old markers and some water in a cup. You can create liquid watercolor, which you can also brush right on. I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple things here. So not everyone has this, but I want to show you, you can use any paint. If you want to have this effect, which I'm going to show you first. If you have black paint, black watercolor, or black marker to create your own DIY, let me go closer, your own DIY black paint, you can. So if you have this, if you had a marker, it would work if you maybe would have colored your background before all your clay pieces, but it would be more challenging if you don't have your background colored together. Get in between those tiny little pieces of tessera. So what we're going to do is I'm first going to show you how to just add, besides the marker, just regular kind of paints. But I'm also going to show you, if you did a black background like this, how to add color on top, and it really pops with that nice black neutral background. Some of you are going to do something like this where you're just using marker and or watercolors, tempera paint, anything like that. You can use all of these things. If you have, I used chalk on this yesterday, which is so fun. I'm going to show you in a minute. But you honestly can use all different techniques. Okay. So I'm going to show you another thing, which is painting. So if you don't have these, you can use, or if you do have those, you can use regular watercolors first. So I'm going to show you the regular watercolors that most of us have at home. And I'm going to stick with warm colors. I'm going to go into my red. Remember, our warm colors on the color wheel remind us of things that are warm, like fire. Whoa. My goodness. Went crazy. Good thing I was going to paint those red anyway. Let's go right here. Things that are red, like fire, orange and yellow, the sun, things that are warm. Cool colors, which you could definitely do too if that's your color scheme. Remember, color scheme are the colors that we use in our artwork. And this time right now, I'm starting with some warm colors, but I might mix it up. Maybe I'm going to go primary colors. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. But I want to show you a bunch of different techniques. So you can literally, let me lift this up again just so you can see. And when I paint this, I actually did on some of them, especially the black, a second coat. That means I painted it once, I let it dry, and then I painted on top of it again with the same color, adding more pigment to wherever I was painting. In some cases, you may want to do that. If you have time and you're not in a rush, which most of us at this point are not, you really do have time. Even if you don't want to make time, try to make time. Do the best that you can do. That's all we can do. That's all we can all do. And now I put kind of a second coat right now to dry. I might even add what I would call, I guess, a third coat once it is totally dry. So I'm going to rinse off my brush, kind of dab it to the side so I have a clean brush. Always wash your brushes. Make sure you're taking care of your materials. I'm going to show you next they look like watercolors, okay? But these are actually, and I have ones here, and those of you in my classes know you've probably used these before. So they are cakes in the fact, like a watercolor. Watercolors, these are watercolor cakes. When I do watercolor with you that we made in a pump bottle or that we DIY'd with a marker, that's a liquid watercolor because it's water and the pigment. In this case, it is simply the pigment. So these are cakes. However, these are not watercolor cakes. These are tempera cakes. So a lot of us let me pull another one out. Can I pull one out? There we go. Here's another one, fun one. So these are just actually kind of dried hard, almost like a sidewalk chalk, if you will. And they're called cakes. This one is a fluorescent color. This one, of course, is a neutral. And they are tempera cakes. So it's actually tempera paint. So if you add water, the same as you would with watercolor, like a tempera watercolor, I'm sorry, not a tempera watercolor, a watercolor cake, the tempera water cakes actually are they're so beautiful. They're way more brilliant. The colors, it's more of a consistency of a paint rather than a watercolor. So it kind of depends on what effect you're looking for. But I'm going to show that next. Okay, so I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to dip it in the water. It's still water activated. You still need to have water with the pigment. So I'm going to go right here into my pink. And I like to tell everyone, those of you who have been in class with me know, quietly, count to 20 and go ahead and take your brush and whatever color you're going, add some water, but you really don't need as much water as you think. I've gone in my water 3 times, but I'm getting enough that once I start painting, I will not go back into my water. Okay, and I like to count to 20 quietly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20. Okay, now I have my brush, I'm ready to go. And you can see if I was to take this, look at the beautiful, kind of actually, I'll try to paint up here so if you can see. Right now, this is the difference of a tempera. And now I'm not going back in the water, but I did go in my cake. And if you have any texture lines, you may want to go around the edges, check the sides. If you have not started adding color yet, that's okay. Take your time. You might want to watch all the techniques. You might want to also see it. Let's say you don't even want to paint at all, and you just want to straight up take a marker and start coloring something. You definitely can. You can. And so fun. I was with another class, both the music teacher, the art teacher, and the classroom teacher all joined together with all the students yesterday. And, oh my goodness, it was so fun. It's crazy that e-learning is there's so many actually great things about it. Honestly, I love it. There's a lot of great things. I miss seeing you. I miss hugs. I miss being able to be there to help you. But there's a lot of beautiful things coming out of all the e-learning as well. Just a different point of view. Can't see it. And I'm going to take the brush. Maybe I want to add a little water too, just for those ones. Maybe I want to leave them, but I kind of want to have a little more blend. Now, the last thing is straight up on the white, you can, of course, add, I'm going to move this out of the way just for a second. You can add chalk. Maybe you want to do sidewalk chalk or chalk pastels. You can also take, this is just a piece of chalk, and I'm going to take that, and you can see I can easily color over it. What's also cool about chalk and pastels is that I can take the chalk, do you see this on the back part of the cardboard? Even if I'm not covering the entirety of that background or that empty space, that negative space in the background, I can cover it enough that if I take a dry paintbrush, a smaller brush to get in those little grooves, I can take that and kind of, it's a dust, right? It's kind of that little dust. So I'm able to move it around and actually fill in my color or my pigment in that background space. And if you, let me go closer so you can kind of see what I did there. But I was just started coloring in the background, and I'm just taking a brush and kind of going around with that dusty pigment from the chalk. So that's a great one too. Of course, oil pastel, same thing. And with an oil pastel, let me grab one. I'm going really fluorescent today. It's minus the green, but everything else I'm very fluorescent. So I'm going to take some of this. I can take some oil pastel and just color in a small piece of tessera of clay, and I can blend that with my finger. You do need to be careful that some of these pieces may become unattached from that background cardboard, and if that happens, you can easily take your liquid glue and just put a little dot, just a dot, not a lot. Put a little dot underneath it and kind of tack it right back down and keep going. And that's fine. Can you blend different things? Yes, maybe I have oil pastel, but I want to add some chalk on top. Of course you can. Maybe my oil pastel didn't color in as neatly as I wanted. Or maybe I want a different tint of my color. So you can easily do something like that as well. Now, next thing I'm going to show you is when you paint it black. So I'm going to first go ahead and take a section and paint it black. Now, if you want to have a different effect completely, and that's what I'm talking about, let me grab this carefully, this kind of effect, where it has that darker black behind it, and then we add colors on top. If you want to do something like that, you're going to want to, before you paint or add anything, and if you already started and you're like, oh, I want to do that, but I didn't do that already, you guys can make a little more clay, and you can do the same thing, let it dry, you have time. Take your time, experiment, it's fun. Now I'm just going to go into my watercolor. Now, of course, I could have had an old black marker and done my own DIY black watercolor. If you have black or brown dark shoe polish, that works awesome. You can actually shoe polish over the top. If you have, it comes in a little container with a little sponge. Ask maybe mom or dad about that one. But you may have that around your house. If you have shoe polish, you can cover the whole thing and then add the color. And it's amazing with that. It's a great effect. If you have a black marker and you made your own, you can make your own liquid watercolor. If you just have cake watercolors like what I'm mixing up now, you can do the same thing and just start coloring it black. With watercolor, you're definitely going to want to do a second coat. So you're going to need, oops, I got a little on there. Don't want that there. If you do get paint on something you don't want, wipe it off right away. A lot of times, someone gets something like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Wipe it off, get a paper towel, grab it, fix it up. You got this. Sometimes, remember, things that you didn't expect to happen turn out to be the happiest mistakes. Now, you can see with this black, and let me go closer so you really can see. It's pretty transparent. It's working, but with a watercolor, it's pretty transparent. If you have a actual black paint shoe palette, like an acrylic or a tempera, or even an oil is going to take longer to dry, but if you had any kind of other black paint, you could just do one coat. But a watercolor or the DIY is going to need 2 coats for sure. Now, I'm going to go right now to my cake one. These are the tempera cakes I was telling you about. Here's black. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to count to 20 in my head, just like I said, and tell everyone, shh, 20. 20. And so I'm going to kind of mix it around, because it's not a regular watercolor, remember, like I said. It actually is a tempera cake, and although it appears to be a watercolor, the paint consistency, the pigment is a little different from how it is created. So this is going to be a lot darker. So first I'm going to paint right next to this. You can see the difference from one coat of the tempera cakes. Now, if you don't have these, don't fret, but if you don't have them and you want to get them at some point, order them on Amazon. I'm not kidding. I'm obsessed with them. I love them. We use them in our class. This brand is great, and I know I don't normally, I joke about I need, endorsements from these people, but even these guys, I wouldn't even need an endorsement. Their paint is so fun. It's so cool. It's just great because, younger people can actually have a way more fine motor skilled craftsmanship type of painting, but not, if that makes sense. But not really. But it's like, it appears that way because it's just easier to work with. You only need one coat. And if I'm to show you close up now where I did the watercolor black and the tempera color black, you can really see the difference. The watercolor is still going to work. You're definitely going to need 2 coats. The tempera might not even need a second coat. I would probably do it just because I like the best effect. So I would still try to be patient, let it dry, and do a second coat of the black. Now, can you do some painted and some black like I'm doing on this one? Yes, of course. But I'm going to fast forward. Fast forward to where I'm going to be doing the black paints one, okay? Now, really quickly before I fast forward, I do want to show you when we were just doing chalk and paint or markers before we got into the black, when we were just doing things that we probably definitely have at home, you still get a beautiful aesthetic. You still get a beautiful look and appearance. So do not worry or fret if that's all you have. And you can always make more and keep creating. So don't worry about that. Now, this is one I did that I dried. Remember, this one was solely done. My camera's weird. I gotta turn my hands. This one was solely done just with marker and watercolors. So you can really get a beautiful effect just from something like this. And if you imagine this matted and framed in like a shadow box, it's actually like, I love it. I totally love it. It's beautiful. Okay. Now, here's, if you go fast forward to the black. So pretend, well, don't pretend, we just did it. We painted the whole black background. But I have started adding color on some of my test raw. And I did leave some blank so that I could use that for a demonstration. So now I'm going to do that. So there's so many things. Okay, yes. If you did black paint already, markers are out. But if you did black paint and you either have chalk, oil pastels, spray watercolor, lots of things can still make an effect on this. Oil pastel and chalk are my personal favorites, okay? So everything that you see from this side over that is actually kind of completed, all done with first the black paint over all of my clay test row that was tacked and glued down, and then the rest of it was all done either with just regular chalk, oil pastels, and like sidewalk chalk and a paintbrush, okay? This side, of course, I started it, but I did not finish. But I also did this on purpose for another reason. I wanted to show you that look how cool just leaving the black background but calling the test row looks. That is also a nice effect. Maybe you don't do the background. This one I did the background with the paintbrush and chalk. Maybe you leave the background completely solid black and just those kind of pieces that are relief off of your plate kind of show as that kind of fun, the color and the test row. Up to you. But right now, I'm going to show you how to do both. Okay. Ready, people? Let me read some comments. What's happening? That looks so cool. Thank you. Nat, are you here? Someone's wondering if Nat is here. Is that Natalie? Who is it? Love it. Welcome. Someone, wait, they're not waiting for hours for, oh my goodness. Somebody's talking about what they're having for dinner. You guys are so funny. I love you guys. Miss you. Okay, so on the side that is not completed, let me show you some of my techniques. If you take well, first let me show it with an oil pastel. So here's some chalk. Let me move my paint actually out of my way, just so I have enough room. Okay, so if I start with an oil pastel, it doesn't matter what color, but I kind of have this warm color outside. Whoops. Outside, and if you notice, I did use blues and greens on the inside. That's because I wanted to make the inside of the heart these kind of cool colors, the outside almost glowing in these warm color effects. Okay, now this is an oil pastel. It could be any kind. If you want to color something with an oil pastel, here's a piece of tessera. It might not even stand out right now to you. I'm going to bring it closer because it's black from this distance. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start coloring it in. So you can see the oil pastel works great, directly coloring right on to the dried black paint that is dried onto our clay pieces of tessera. And that's beautiful enough. Can you take your finger and gently, remember you don't want to unglue them. Keep your glue on hand actually in case if you're a little too aggressive, you can easily pop one of those clay pieces out of place. So if that's the case, just put a little glue on it and give it a few minutes, let it dry and tack. Okay, so now I colored those with just an oil pastel. Excuse me. Can I add chalk on it? Yes, of course I can. Chalk gives a really cool effect. If you finish the whole thing in chalk and you don't want any of it to tack off, you can take an aerosol, maybe a mom or dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever's with you, aunt, uncle, whoever's with you, or if you're older, some of you are old enough to do a can of hairspray, maybe older sibling, but you spray right over the top and let that dry, and it's going to allow the chalk every time you touch it not to kind of come off, that pigment not to come off onto someone else's hand. If you know how people just want to touch art even though they're not supposed to. Okay, so I'm going to do another one in chalk. That one looks totally black. I'm taking my little piece of tessera clay that's tacked down. I'm going to also take my other finger and kind of blend it in. Can I take another color and blend with it? Of course. I'm going to pop out some yellow. Maybe I want this to be a more orangey, kind of peachy, yellow, pink. Okay, you can do that. And you can definitely blend colors. You can also carefully do a little light blow like that. Or a careful tap. But if you do a tap, make sure you're really careful so that none of those pieces pop off. And if they do, that they don't break. Okay? So now I'm going to take some orange because I'm sticking with my warm color palette, my warm color scheme. And thinking of the color wheel. So right now I'm just simply coloring in. And maybe I want to add some of this kind of golden orange to this more red orange one. Of course you can. And look at the beautiful kind of ombre that I just created from that. Can you see that? Very pretty. So now you're adding some color. I'm going to add some more. So maybe it's chalk. Maybe it's marker. If you had, let me get this guy out of the way. But if I had something like this guy, and I wanted to, after this, add marker on top of the paint once it's dry, you could take a marker and maybe you want to kind of just, add, who knows what you're doing. I don't know what your pattern is, but in this case, I'm just going to take some marker on top. You definitely can add marker after it's dry. You can add marker before you add paint, and when you add water, if it's water-based, it will blend. Okay, so I just added some extra little details. You can do that in your artwork. And now, how do I do this background? Okay, so if I'm going to do the background, I need to get in between all these pieces of tessera, and I'm really hoping that I'm not going to break everything off. I don't feel like re-gluing everything. If I had to, of course I will, but I don't want to. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take some chalk or oil pastel. You can use sidewalk chalk. You can use chalk pastels. If you don't have any of those things, before you glue, you can always paint or add marker. You can also squeeze marker in there with a little paintbrush and water and kind of blend it. That works really well, especially if you didn't do the black already. Now, if you look close up, I kind of got in there. And that actually is a cool effect, too, where you see some of the black around the tessera, but I didn't blend. But what I want to do right now is show you with a dry paintbrush. Is this one dry? No, that is not dry. Got all sorts of, here's my dry brush. Okay, this is a dry brush. No water. And I'm going to take that, and you see the pigment can kind of blend around. So I'm able to go in and out and around all of those little pieces of tessera, and I'm blending my color. So little areas, little niches and notches where I can't actually get my piece of chalk or my fingers, I am able to blend with simply my paintbrush. Now, I'm going to keep going, add some color. I actually like to overlap or layer color, so I'm going to add some yellow in there. I'm going to still stick with my warm color scheme, but I also want to add, I'm like thinking I already got it out. I was already thinking it, I guess. I need some orange. So I'm going to kind of get in there, not too much, and be gentle. Remember to be gentle, because if something does break off, you want it to break off in one piece so that it can be an easy kind of glue fix. You don't want it to be something that you're like devastated over and have to completely start over and then never want to do art again. That would be terrible, people. Okay, so here we go. All right, so I added that. Okay, so then I still would have a little more. What's her time, Mia? Mimi. What's her time? She's shuffling cards over there. She ain't even paying attention. Always. What is it? 120. Okay, it's really close. So I'm gonna finish right there. You could seal this too, guys, with a decoupage. If you don't have decoupage, do half water, half liquid glue, mix it together, take a sponge brush and brush over, let it dry for 24 hours, and you'll have a beautiful kind of shellacked, clear, kind of coated, sealed project, which would just be like that. I'm going to do it tonight for mine, but that's a fun thing to do too. Especially if you have decoupage, you can actually use it. But if you don't, just use liquid glue and some water. Okay, so I'm going to turn the camera before we run out of time. I'm also going to grab a paper towel because Ms.A's hands are very chalky and pastel-y. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera to say hello and goodbye. And I'm going to hold it very carefully because we all know what happens when I move things, when I try things. Okay. Perfect. All right. I think I have it a little to the side, but that's okay. So today, guys, we first started out with making that salt clay. Let me grab some so you can see it. It was that salt flour. Remember, it was just a half a cup of flour. Oops. Ms.A dropped some on the floor. A half cup of flour, a quarter cup of water, and a quarter cup, 1/4 cup of salt. And once you make this kind of nice consistency, if you are going to save it, remember it can be used again. So if you are going to save it and you're not making it today, or you made some today extra but you didn't need it, go ahead, carefully air seal tight it. Kind of squeeze the air out in a little Ziploc or a little kind of lunch sandwich bag and kind of squeeze out that air. If you keep it in your refrigerator, it should last at least 7 days, at least a week, and without drying out. And then we created, oh my goodness, I have so many different things happening. We started taking our clay, we made, I didn't glue those, hilarious. We started making clay coils. We added texture. We made little pieces of tessera, small pieces of either, in our case, clay, but ceramic or glass that would create a mosaic. So we're giving it that mosaic feel. Remember to take those small pieces as they dry and take a little bit of glue. Let me open it and show you again just in case. Didn't open all the way. Okay, so you take a little bit of glue, just a dot, not a lot, tack it into place, and make sure that you leave some time for each piece of tessera or clay to actually hold time, to hold it and to dry. After that, I did show you different techniques and different kind of cool art materials that you may or may not have at home. Markers, we did watercolors, we did DIY watercolors, liquid watercolors, we did tempera cakes. Of course, if you have any kind of acrylic paint, tempera paint, spray paint, oil pastels, all of those fun things, of course, once it's dry, are amazing materials to add color to your aesthetic. This was my example, of course, again, that I did add a little marker at the end, but that we did solely out of markers and a paintbrush and water and watercolor. Okay, that's all done with watercolor or a marker that we added paintbrush and water to create a watercolor effect. This one we did, remember, at the end here, and it's still not finished. I'm going to finish it. I still have a little bit more I'd like to do right here. But anyway, so this final one was where we did the black background over all of our tessera. doing at least 2 coats so that you have a nice solid black. Remember, you can use, if you have acrylic paint, 1 coat. If you have black shoe polish or India ink, 1 coat. But if you just have DIY watercolor or regular watercolor or Sharpie or coloring, you might need to get in all those grooves and color it and do it, let it dry and do a 2nd coat. And then we used chalk and a paintbrush to kind of move that pigment around. We used oil pastels. And I can't wait to see all of your guys' projects. On Friday, we're starting a completely new project. I kind of get nervous with there's only been 2. There's only the 2nd one where I kind of overlapped into the next lesson. And if it was a regular art class, I do that all the time. We can go almost 3 weeks and be still doing the same project because there's so many different like terms and techniques and materials we're using. But when we're doing it like this, it's difficult and challenging for that. It's also challenging because you don't have all the fun things that we might have at school. So I'm really trying to make us be able to do like some of the coolest work, but with what we have. So hopefully you're having fun creating with us, and I'm glad that you joined us again. And I'll see you Friday, 12:30. And I can't wait to create. I actually have a very fun lesson, and I'm excited about it because it's something I would technically do. Not with all grades, but something for the time of year, and it's gonna fit perfectly for the time of year. We're gonna add cultures, we're gonna add art. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So hopefully you'll join us on Friday. Whatever day it is. Anyway, love you guys, miss you. I'm gonna try to archive this, of course, and